Good afternoon, Coach.
Afternoon.
We're going to get started with Zach Berman and then Tim McManus.
Hey, good afternoon, Doug. In Carson's fifth year in the league and fifth year working with you, why are you seeing his production and his performance regress?
Progress?
Regress.
Oh, regress. Oh, I'm sorry. It cut out there a second. It's a good question. For us, it's a matter of continuing to work, I think as coaches and players, we continue to strive to get better every single day. I just don't want Carson to feel like he has to make all the plays every single time. I just want him to just be Carson, and you guys know him. You've been around him. You've heard him. His demeanor is he wants to do everything right, and we've given him control to do that. But we just got to continue to work to get better. And I don't think anybody can totally master, the sport. You're constantly learning and getting better, and that's what we got to do and continue to coach that.
Along those lines, Doug, your relationship with Carson from a quarterback play caller standpoint, just as a reference point with Nick, it seemed like it was easier, maybe at least to the casual observer. Like there was a natural mesh between what his strengths were and what you were calling. Do you agree that it's been a little bit tougher to get on the same page with Carson, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're talking about two different guys, obviously two different personalities. Two guys approach the game a little bit differently, and you tailor it to their strengths, and that was one of the things that I had to do with Nick when he took over a few years ago is find out what he liked, and that's what we do with Carson even to today, and as we even in game make decisions, continuing to have conversations on the sideline, with he and press and myself, just what do you like? What are you seeing? What do you want?
There's something that we need to discuss, and I feel like a lot of you guys might say, Mike is probably going to be very biased about this topic, but if there's one thing I hope that I've proven to you guys over the past couple months, it's the fact that even though I'm discussing a rival team, I'll always keep it 100, and I'll always make sure to keep all biases based off of who's my favorite team out of these videos, although most of you guys are going to comment that I'm just biased against a player anyway. So we need to discuss Carson Wentz, because there's something up with him. He's not playing how I expect Carson Wentz to play, and I feel like there's a plethora of reasons why. Now, before we get to the content, guys, make sure you sack that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Literally just leaving a like on this video will do wonders in getting my content recommended to brand new viewers, and hopefully it'll translate to new subscribers as well. Don't forget about my PlayStation 5 giveaway on Twitter. I'm going to leave a link to it in the description down below as well. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. Guys, in week 1 of the NFL season, there was something that I found very peculiar. You see, in the NFC East, and I'm sorry, Washington football team fans, but the Washington football team, except for maybe 1 year in the past decade, has been the perennial punching bag of the NFC East, and it appeared to be going that way once again this year, considering all of the rumors that were surrounding Dan Snyder and all of the controversial statements that the press was leaking about Dan Snyder's behavior, in addition to Jay Gruden over the summer. It seemed like it doesn't matter how good this team is. It doesn't matter that they got a good, stable head coach in Ron Rivera and a very promising quarterback in Dwayne Haskins, with probably the greatest bridge quarterback in NFL history in Alex Smith. There's still the Washington football team. There's a cloud of dysfunction that just surrounds them and their owner, and it's probably not going to go away until Dan Snyder sells the team. It's kind of how we feel about the New York Knicks in basketball terms. So when we saw in week 1 the Washington football team absolutely decimate the Philadelphia Eagles by 10, well, there was a huge cause for concern over there, because of course, the Washington football team does have a defensive head coach, and they do have Chase Young, they have Ryan Kerrigan, they have Jonathan Allen, which I'm very high up on. They have Landon Collins and Kendall Fuller and Montez Sweat, a very promising young defense. I still expected a player that was once considered to be the front runner for the league's MVP award in 2018 to make quick work of this defense, because Carson Wentz, in my eyes, has always been an elite quarterback that was definitely worthy of the number 2 overall pick. As a matter of fact, the narrative that surrounded Carson Wentz has always been consistent. He's a really fantastic quarterback when he's on the field, but that's exactly the problem. How often does Carson Wentz get on the field? The number one thing that typically was holding back Carson Wentz was injuries, and, well, it appears as though there are other things holding him back this year, because for the first time, we're seeing Carson Wentz take the field, and he's not playing how we expect Carson Wentz to perform. And I'm sure Philadelphia Eagles fans could agree with me in the comment section down below, because take a look at his statistics for throughout the first 4 years of his career, and then compare them to how he did this year. His worst year in the NFL so far was in his second year in his sophomore season, which he may have had a sophomore slump, but even then, he threw for 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions with a 60% completion percentage. The very next year, he was able, and by the way, in this year, he had his highest QBR of his career. And the very next year in 2018, well, he was able to throw for 21 touchdowns as opposed to 33, but his completion percentage was near 70%. He played 2 less games in this season, and that was in 2018. He looked like he was improving each and every year, and this culminated last year in 2019, which, by the way, you have to bear in mind, in 2019, the very last season that Carson Wentz was able to play, he was fully healthy. It was his first fully healthy season throughout 16 games, and he had a pretty good season. Once again, 7 interceptions, 27 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards passing, 64% completion percentage. So you would think that the problem here isn't at the quarterback position, which is why so many people were shocked when the Philadelphia Eagles selected Jalen Hurts in the second round. With that in mind, I have to ask you guys the question, what on earth is the matter with Carson Wentz? What's going on with this individual, a player that should be competing for MVP? Why is he taking a huge step back nearly in his 5th year in the NFL? Well, there are multiple things that we could attribute to Carson Wentz taking a step back, but before we do that, I want you guys to take a moment to let me know in the comment section down below what you think is holding him back, because these are my theories, and I want to see what your theories are as well. But let's get to my very first theory about what's holding him back, and that's the fact that the offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles has seen some better days. Now, don't get it twisted. An offensive line of Jason Peters and Jason Kelce and, of course, Lane Johnson would absolutely strike fear into anyone's hearts about 5 years ago. But at the time that I'm recording this, and at least this year, Jason Peters is 38 years old. Jason Kelce is about to turn 33 years old. And Lane Johnson is 30 years old. So their play is definitely going to be on the decline as a result of that. And probably the biggest concern for the Philadelphia Eagles this year is the offensive line. But at the same time, the Philadelphia Eagles pretty much had the same offensive line last year, only Jason Peters moved from right guard to left tackle for this year, and they brought in Matt Pryor in the right guard position this year. So it's not like the offensive line looks that much different than a year ago, where it was a fairly adept, probably one of the better offensive lines in the league. But I guess a lot of people are expecting a huge decline from a left tackle that is 38 years old and a relatively unknown player at the right guard position. And if even one of these players gets injured or is out for pandemic reasons, well, the substitutions just make it even scarier, in my opinion. But I don't think this is the main reason why Carson Wentz isn't performing up to par. The next thing that I think is a huge problem for Carson Wentz is just a complete lack of targets to throw the football to. And, you know, historically, Carson Wentz's favorite target was Zach Ertz, but this year, a lot of people and a lot of analysts are pointing to Zach Ertz's contract situation as a result of his decline in play, because so far he hasn't been playing up to par. And typically, when a player is so heavily involved in contract negotiations, they are a little bit distracted. At the time of this video, Ertz has been targeted 14 times. He's made 8 receptions for 60 yards and has had 1 touchdown thus far in the 2 Philadelphia Eagles losses. But I don't think anything is bigger than the final 2 reasons that I'm about to tell you guys. And I think this next reason is probably the biggest one. It appears as though the Philadelphia Eagles just lack confidence in Carson Wentz anymore. And I understand a lot of people are thinking, hey, look, just because they went and they drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round last year doesn't necessarily mean that Jalen Hurts is the new guy in Philadelphia. Well, it doesn't matter. Whenever you draft a quarterback that high up, especially in the 2nd round, just 5 years after you traded up to the number 2 overall pick to draft a quarterback, it sends a message. No one invests that high of a draft pick in a player that isn't eventually going to see the field. And whether it's due to a Carson Wentz injury, which I don't really think is necessarily the case because he played a full 16 games last season, or whether it's due to shoddy play, which, by the way, Jalen Hurts was trending on Twitter during a horrific week for Carson Wentz this past week against the Rams. No matter what, that's going to have to go through Carson Wentz's mind, and that definitely will shake up his confidence and his ability to play. And in the Philadelphia Eagles' defense, they really tried their best to get Carson Wentz the help he needed in the 1st round this year. They were trying to trade up for CeeDee Lamb in the NFL draft, and they ended up having to settle for Jalen Reagor, who was famously compared to Nelson Aguilar, who recently left the Philadelphia Eagles after an unsuccessful tenure. But this was done as a result of the Dallas Cowboys essentially picking CeeDee Lamb just so the Philadelphia Eagles can't get their hands on CeeDee Lamb, which is kind of brilliant and maybe even slightly petty in my opinion. The only final reason I have for Carson Wentz's decline in play is just general rust or emotional exhaustion from the countless amounts of injuries from his entire career, and the fact that his team won a Super Bowl without him, and that he's only played 1 playoff game throughout his 5-year tenure in the NFL. Maybe he has some demons that are eating him up inside. I'm not exactly sure. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention because I thought it was very peculiar. As a Dallas Cowboys fan, I typically fear Carson Wentz. I feel like he has the ability to pick apart our defenses. That, coupled with Doug Peterson's brilliant play calling, usually smells doom for other teams. But they just don't seem to be the same team this year. So if there's a theory that you have about why Carson Wentz hasn't been performing so far, let me know in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.